welcome to this week's reading vlog. This week I have quite the challenge ahead of me as it is the last week in the month and I have an awful lot of books left to finish off before this TBR is completed. So firstly I have Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Moreira to finish. I have over half of this book left, as you can see. Really loving this one so far, but it's been a very slow burn book for me, so definitely need to crack on with this one over the next few days. I think this will be my first reading priority to get sorted. I then also have over half again of Catherine of Aragon by Alison Weir, one of the 6 Tudor Queens books, which again I've been making okay progress, but it's been quite a slow going book. I'd been listening to the audiobook of this one, but I think I'm going to switch to the physical copy because it's just so much quicker for me to read. And then I have the entirety of The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan to read this week. This is a beast of a book. It's the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series, and as you can see is an absolute chunk. It is nearly 1,000 pages, I think. Yeah, 974 pages, so just the small one, but I'm really enjoying this series so far. I'm excited to get back into it. It's a really proper traditional high fantasy series. I'm really invested in it so far, and obviously not very far through the series as there is about 15 books I think to read in total, but really excited to get to this one and hopefully we'll get through a good chunk of this week. So if that wasn't bad enough, I'm also going to have a very busy week with work this week. I've got lots of things going on that will take up my time outside of my work hours, so I don't know whether I'll be able to commit to reading every night or not, but if I can get one of the books that I'm partway through completed and the other 2 a decent chunk of the way through, I'm going to count this TBR as a success. I am also working Sunday, so even if I roll it over to the start of August, that won't really help me very much, but we'll see. It's okay. I'm not putting any pressure on myself. I don't have an official TBR game or anything like this. It's just goals I set for myself, and some of the books I've read this month have been really long, chunky books, like the ones I'm reading at the moment, so obviously I wasn't going to get as many books read this month as last month when I had whatever-a-thon prompts and some shorter reads in there, but nevertheless I will try and do my best with this ridiculous stack of books for this week, and we'll keep you updated with my thoughts on what I've been reading. Last week I didn't actually have any vlog footage to show you as I had a bit of a disaster with technology. I lost all my footage from my mid-year freakout tag and my last week's vlog, so I'm not going to bother refilming those. It seems a little bit pointless now to be going back and revisiting something I've already said, so sorry those will not be coming your way, but we'll make up with it this week and I'll try and do a little bit of a longer vlog. But during last week I made a bit more progress with the ones that I'm partway through, but mainly I read a different book, which I will go and grab for you right now. It was this one, The Left-Handed Booksellers of London by Garth Nix. Now this is another book that I've borrowed from my friend in the stack of books she lent me to work my way through steadily. I've never read anything by Garth Nix before. I know he's very famous for his Sabriel, Lyriel, whatever that trilogy, is it trilogy? I don't know, series is called. Anyway, I've heard very good things about them, but I haven't read them myself. This one is a little bit of a different book for him. It's not part of that series. It's a sort of kind of magical realism, I guess, book. It's set in 1980s London, but an alternative version of London where you have these characters who are booksellers, but they are either left-handed or right-handed as their kind of category of magic, and that depends what their particular affinity is and how they're able to interact with this sort of underworld of London that's very magically based. You've got lots of supernatural creatures and things, and it's just a really fun book, this. I really enjoyed it. I was very sceptical as to whether I'd actually enjoy reading it or not. It seemed a little bit out there and I wasn't sure if Garth Nix's humour would be quite for me, but I really actually did like it. It was a fun read, very entertaining, nothing particularly groundbreaking. It was a bit different from anything I'd read before, but not outstanding. I probably won't read this again, but I've given it a high 3 stars. It was a fun ride, and the magic in this, I liked the characters that we met. I liked the little glimpse of how the world was in the 80s as well, because I just missed out on that. I'm a 90s baby, so didn't actually get to see any of this firsthand, so it is quite good fun to have that little bit of recent history brought to life. So a good read, but not necessarily made me want to read anything more by Garth Nix. Maybe I'll eventually get to that other series of his, but it's just a solid one on the list for me for books that I have read. It was a bit of a light reading week though. That was the only book I actually completed last week. Just made a small bit more progress on my other two, but I didn't really have much reading time at all. I had a really busy week with tennis, so hopefully this week will be a little bit more productive. I will update you again soon with which books I decide to get started with first. I'm thinking maybe Daughter of the Forest. I'm in the mood for that one at the moment. I'm loving the kind of old Celtic mythology type vibes, so maybe we'll go with that one. We'll see. I will check in with you again very soon. I have come out on a walk this evening to one of my favourite local reading spots and have brought with me Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Moreira. I am slowly working my way through this book. I started it a couple of weeks ago now, just as an ebook on Scribd on my phone. I just wanted something that I could flick through a couple of pages every day at work on my lunch breaks, but consequently was reading it very, very slowly for a book which is over 600 pages. So I decided to get hold of a physical copy, so I've got this one just I think about $3.99 from eBay, just so that I'm actually able to read this a lot quicker by having it physically in front of me. I don't get on very well with ebooks. It's not my preferred reading format at all, but at the time it was okay. But now I'm into this book and I want to read it a bit quicker. Definitely the physical one is a lot better for me. And I'm continuing to enjoy this book. It's got an awful lot darker from the first section that I was reading. It's definitely still has those fairy tale vibes. It feels very sort of mythology based, almost, with the kind of historical ancient setting and the few threads of magic that we've seen woven through the story so far. You have the sort of evil stepmother type character, but it's definitely a gritty, dark story, in some places quite difficult to read, and you really, really feel for our main character Saoirse. She's absolutely having a horrible time so far. I'm about nearly halfway through, and her story is just going from bad to worse so far, poor thing. But I suppose that's needed to set the story up for a great improvement and for the new characters that I know we're going to meet a little bit further down the line. So I'm really, really enjoying the story and very intrigued to see where it goes. So I'm going to try and read a couple more chapters this evening while out in my lovely nature spot. It's just so pretty here. You can see the trees behind me. A little bit of sunset light as well. It's a really, really pretty spot. One of my favourites to sit and read in, as it's always so quiet. I've got the wind in the trees, I've got the bird song. It's just a perfect little nature escape. So a couple more chapters of this tonight. I'm going to aim to try and finish it over the next few days. So fingers crossed the rest of the story carries on in just as good a vein as it's started so far. I'm not sure how much more Juliet Moreira has actually written, but I do believe this is the first in a series, so if I enjoy this one I will definitely continue on and maybe check out some of her other works as well. But let's carry on with this one for now. I will catch up with you again a bit later on. It is now Thursday evening, I'm losing track. I've just got back from tennis and got rather caught in the rain, so excuse me if I look a little bit dishevelled this evening, but my plan once I have dried off and made some dinner is to carry on with The Shadow Rising. I'm getting on pretty well with this book. I'm about 300 pages through, I think. It is 1,000 pages long, the give or take, so that's actually not as impressive as it sounds. But nevertheless, good progress is being made, and I'm definitely at a point now where I can start to let you know my thoughts on this book. So it is now the fourth book in a series which I've been reading for quite some time, so the characters are very familiar. I'm very familiar with the world building, with how everything works in this world. The geography of the world is still a little bit difficult to grasp because of all the different names, and it's very traditional fantasy, but thankfully it does have a lovely map at the front which I'm consulting regularly. The characters at the moment have all come together again at the start of the book, so all of our initial cast of characters from the first book are all back together, but then are going their separate ways as of the moment, so we are splitting off to different parts of the world again with different little subgroups going on mini quests, I suppose you could say. And I'm really intrigued actually about the storyline, as I usually am with these books. I'm really enjoying it. It did have a bit of a lull in the third book with not a huge amount happening until the one event at the end. I won't give any spoilers away. But this one, again, continued that lull at the start. But the whole book has a lot darker tone than the previous ones. I think you can tell that we are building up the action and the severity of the consequences of what's going on. Some of the characters are developing in their personalities as well, especially some of the very original trio of the three young men who are the Tavern, or the chosen ones, I guess. They are all very much developing their characters. They're all going in very different directions, which I kind of like and I kind of don't. I liked them all at the start, so I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy them as people as much now, but I think for character development it is important that they do change, they do grow as a result of the things they're going through, so it gets points for that. There is a slight twist in the romantic status of the characters as well. One kind of romantic thread that we were following seems to be closing and another is opening. I'm not really bothered, to be perfectly honest. I don't care much about the romances. It's not a big factor in the book, and it's not something that really helps or hinders my enjoyment of it. It's just something that's there, and I guess it adds to the dynamic between the characters. But yeah, all in all, really enjoying this book so far. I'm hoping to read another 150 pages maybe to this evening. I've got a good few hours of reading time, so I'm hoping I can get through that and make a bit more of a chunk. If I could get to halfway, that would be brilliant, but I don't think I'll get quite that far. But anyway, I do think I'm probably going to have to roll this over a tiny bit into next week, or if I finish this one, then one of my other books will roll over into next week. I just simply do not have the time. I'm very busy with work this week. I've got a couple of social things on as well over the weekend, and I'm working on Sunday, so busy. But we will see. Sunday's actually August anyway, isn't it? But there we go. Never mind. So we will see. But very much enjoying my book so far. Positive reading week. I will update you a little bit later on and let you know where I've got to. Hello. This lighting is very yellow. I'm just dropping in with a quick update to say I have finally finished reading Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. I really, really liked this book. It was a beautiful read. It was everything I hoped it would be, and more, really. It was just such a beautiful old world feel, really historical, felt very believable, even though it is a fantasy book of sorts. I loved the threads of mythology woven into the story. I loved the characters. They were very believable, very complex, but at the same time it felt very fairy tale. There were certain stereotypes fulfilled by the story, which was really, really satisfying. Somewhat of a reconciliation, redemption, whatever you might want to say, by the end of the story, but still a little bit bittersweet in other places. And I just loved the whole feel of the book. The first half is very Celtic in feel. It's set in Ireland. You've got that sort of forest magical setting, whereas the second half is in England, and it is a lot more of the historical vibe of book. You've got the sort of country house and the politics within that kind of estate and the running of all of that lot. So two very different worlds brought together by one character travelling across them. I felt the romance was tastefully done as well. It was definitely present in the story. It was a big part of the story, but it wasn't just there for the sake of. It felt like it belonged there, and it was very important to the story, not just, oh, here's a romance, here's two people, we're going to throw in this extra part of the tale that doesn't necessarily need to be there. And I'm absolutely not a fan of cheesy romances. I don't read contemporaries. I hardly ever read anything with a purely romantic plot. So it was well done for me and absolutely didn't detract, in fact enhanced my enjoyment of this book. I really, really loved this book. I am slightly in a dilemma though, that I had said if I ended up enjoying this one I would continue the series and read more from these characters, from this author. However, I loved how this concluded so much, and I loved this as a whole book, you know, just a well-rounded story, that I'm kind of worried that if I carried on with other books in the series I wouldn't like them as much, and I would just wish I'd stopped at this one. So I think for now I will stop at this one, and maybe if I'm really curious and longing for this world again in the future, then I can always pick up the second one in the series. But really, really enjoyed this. I think it's probably a very high 4-star. It's tricky. It could be a 5. I'm not sure. I will have to think on this a bit more, but I'm going to go with a high 4-star for now. It's very borderline. I really, really enjoyed it. I definitely am glad I picked up a physical copy, because I flew through the second half of the book reading it physically, and perhaps had I started from the beginning with a physical one, it might have definitely made that 5-star mark. I don't know, but a really enjoyable read, and really, really glad I finally got that one done. So the rest of the week I have still got a huge amount left to read. I've still got a big chunk of The Shadow Rising to get through, and the other half of Catherine of Aragon as well. I'm really not feeling in the mood for Catherine of Aragon. I'm not enjoying it as much as I was when I first started, and even reading it physically, it's just not inspiring me as much. So I may put that one on. I'm not DNFing it, absolutely not, but I may put that one on hold for now and focus on prioritising The Shadow Rising, and roll that one over obviously into next week. It's not going to get done this week, it absolutely isn't, but I will get through as much as I can and then finish that one off next week when I start my August TBR as well, and then eventually I will get back to Catherine of Aragon at some point when I'm just feeling a little bit more inspired by it. But yeah, satisfying evening, finishing one big book, and hopefully I'll get a little bit more reading done later on. I'm just off to make some tea and have a cosy evening. It feels so autumnal today, it's brilliant. You can see it's just getting dark outside. It's a lot sooner than it has been the past few weeks with the hot sunshine, but it's been a very grey evening and felt a lot like autumn, which I am not mad about at all. Autumn is my favourite season. As much as I love the sun, I do love those autumn vibes, the chilly mornings and the mist and the crispy leaves and everything else. So it's nice to have a little flavour of that in the middle of the summer. So tea and reading for this evening. I will check in with you again a little bit later on. Hello, it is Friday evening. I've just come out of work and I'm all set for a day off tomorrow. I've had a really, really busy week, including having an interview for a promotion at work actually, which I found out today that I actually got. So I'm really happy in that respect. But I've had a particularly stressful work week, including the interview. So I'm really, really looking forward to having a bit of a break and hopefully getting a bit of reading done this weekend. My reading, because of the busy week, has been a bit limited. I did finish Daughter of the Forest, as you saw in yesterday's update, but I still have over half of The Shadow Rising left and about half of Catherine of Aragon too, so an awful lot to get read this weekend, considering I am now going out this evening with a friend who I haven't seen for ages, so I imagine that will be an all-evening job. Tomorrow I have some family plans in the afternoon, but hopefully can do reading otherwise tomorrow, and then Sunday I'm at work again and busy in the evening too with work stuff, so really running out of time to get all these books finished. I mean, the end of the month is tomorrow, and so I'm most definitely not going to have finished all of my TBR, but I will at least have read a proportion of every book that I started, so we're doing okay so far. We're managing. I'm still loving everything I'm reading, less so the Catherine of Aragon book. It is sort of boring me a little bit at the moment. It started so well, this book, and I was really intrigued by the new period of history and the, well, not period of history, but approach to that period of history that we were getting, a new aspect of Catherine's specific storyline. But since her marriage to Henry, it's actually gone quite boring in this book. It's just a steady succession of, you know, pregnancies and issues with court, and it's just all a little bit dull so far. So I'm a little bit sad. I'm hoping that once the Anne Boleyn side of the plot comes in, it will actually get a lot more exciting again, because it's a little bit more drama, for want of a better description, but I don't know. We'll see. It might pick up again towards the end. I will still carry on with the series. I do still like reading about Tudor history, but unfortunately not turned out to be quite as good as I had hoped. I'm still really, really enjoying The Shadow Rising, however. I love this series, I love the characters, it's just a solid fantasy read for me, so expected to enjoy it and still am doing so. But as I said, quite a long way to go with that one. I think I still have about 600 pages left to read, so there is a lot to do. So that is the plan for the weekend. I am going to have a nice relaxed and celebratory evening tonight, and then hopefully tomorrow morning can get going with some reading. So I'm sure I will catch up with you again when I've got a little bit more done. Sunday afternoon. I have just got out of work. I'm just driving home and stuck in traffic once again. There's always traffic queues, but useful for vlog updates. So I am just checking in to actually finish this vlog here because I am not going to get any more reading done this evening. I have more work stuff to do once I get home tonight, and I'm just really tired. So that will be it for this week's reading. I have read a little bit more of The Shadow Rising over the weekend. You may have seen some B-roll footage yesterday. I can't actually remember if I filmed anything. It's been a busy weekend. But if not, then take my word for it. I did read about another 150 pages of that, but still have around half of the book to go. So that definitely is rolling over into next week. That will be my priority read for next week. And I will also let you know in the next vlog the rest of my TBR for August. So just to quickly wrap up the week, I did read the ending of Daughter of the Forest, completed that one and really enjoyed that book. Close to 5 stars, if not quite 5 stars. Really beautifully written book, which I gave you my thoughts on earlier in the vlog, but very much enjoyed. And then I have made significant more progress with The Shadow Rising and read a tiny bit more of Catherine of Aragon, but have sort of come to the conclusion that I might temporarily put it to one side and focus on other books and then pick it back up at some later date. I don't know, I still might go back to it next week. We'll see what mood I'm in, but it's just not holding me at the moment. But anyway, so progress was made. It looks like I've hardly read anything because I've only finished one book and read a bit more of another, but they're all big books, so I'm going to count it as a success. And I have had a ridiculously busy week, as I've said, so all in all, successful. So that will be the end of this vlog. Thank you very much for watching as always. Give me a like down below if you did. Feel free to leave a comment to chat to me about any of the books I've read, anything else you'd like to discuss with me. And please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content from me. I will see you again very soon with another video, but bye for now.